there's Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder here with another brew this week. You get a double brew. This is going to be utilizing the Griffin Ari, which is the card that I was talking about yesterday in the historic brew about trying to build around in standard. So I thought I'd give it a go, and I think black-white is the right route to go. Now, keep in mind this is still in its early stages. It has a very reasonable matchup versus rogues because of the ability to continue to create threats and answer all the threats that rogues put out. It does struggle versus the rest of the decks in the meta at the moment. So basically the Griffin Ari is very similar to Roost of Drakes. I like that card in my last kicker deck. It's kind of a trade-off. This one is easier to enable, but you can only have it activate at the end of a turn, and it gets kind of awkward if you have to use some of your instant speed life gain spells at the end of the turn, especially this one, the Erebos' Intervention, to gain the life, because then it will not trigger. So it's kind of got that trade-off with the kicker. I don't think either one are really perfect, but they are what you want out of an enchantment, which is be coming down on the turn 2 and then get you some residual threats. And I think the 2/2 flying creatures are definitely threats in the standard meta. All right, so black I decided on because there's a lot easier ways to enable the Griffin Ari, and we did get the Silver Smote Ghoul. So this is another card that is going to trigger off of 3 life. Unfortunately, there are a lot of cards in standard right now that do 2 life, or a lot of 2 life linkers. The first one is the zombie, the Death Touch zombie that mills, as well as gains 2 life. There's the Scorpion. When it dies, it gains 2 life. There is the Birth of Meletis that gains 2 life. None of those I'm going to use in this deck because you'd have to also pair them with something else that would gain some life. So for that reason, I decided that I would forego using those type of cards and really focus on cards that 100% do enable the Griffin Ari and the Silver Smoke Ghoul. All right, so a couple other things too that I thought about as a self-mill strategy, because we already cling to dust. The Ghoul wants to be in the graveyard. You'd never really want to hard cast this card. It's underpowered for a hard cast. It can get answered with the 1 mana spell that exiles, and it can get answered with basically any removal in the format at the moment. So you want this to be a free spell that you cast from the graveyard, and that's where this deck is quite awkward. I really wish that Mazemind Tome had just a loot. I wish there was a loot effect in standard at the moment where you draw a card, discard a card in these colors. Unfortunately, there is not. There is just mill, which then makes this even more awkward because I think that this deck wants particular cards you want in your hand and then cards that are in your graveyard. So that hopefully, like next set, there will be an artifact that has a loot type effect or something else that can loot. The best that I can think of right now is Rankle, and I am putting Rankle in the sideboard for that reason. So let's just go down the deck list here, and then I'll talk about cards that didn't make the cut. Cling to Dust is super good in this deck because it's going to be either exiling a creature for 3 life, which triggers both of those cards, or it's just going to draw you a card. So it's kind of like a 1 mana cycler. We're running Fabled Passage, works with Fabled Passage. The Erebos' Intervention is also super good in this format. There are a lot of decks that do utilize the graveyard, so you can exile your opponent's graveyard if they're like on a Yorion Dance of Mance deck, or if they are on like a Rogue's deck. It's super good versus that, having that option to be able to exile cards from their graveyard and being able to deal damage or negative X to an X to a creature and gain life is going to do exactly what we want this card to do in our deck, which is going to be triggering a Griffin or a Ghoul and then taking care of our opponent's creatures. Charming Prince, same thing. It's going to scry to get you the cards you need at first, leave back a blocker, and then you're also going to be able to gain through life. Now, this one could pair with the Apparition. We could throw like an Apparition in the deck too, but I thought that that's not the right way we want to go. We really want to showcase the cards that we're trying to brew around. Revitalize is a very good card. It is standard legal because it is an arena card, meaning that it is going to be always available in standard, as it is one of those arena. I think it actually might be an M21 as well. I'm not sure, but it is a card that is going to stick around due to the arena printing. And so you gain through life, draw a card for 2 mana. Exactly what we want this card to do. Black Lace Paragon is another card that is pretty sweet because it is removal, and it is going to be able to remove a creature because it has Death Touch, and then lifelink to be able to trigger off either the Ghoul or the Griffin. Heartless Act is just necessary evil right now as far as removal is concerned, and the other removal we're going to run is Murderous Rider as a spot removal. Mazemind Tome is kind of interesting in this deck because it's doing everything we want it to do. It's going to be drawing us cards. It's going to be gaining 4 life when it's finally exiled. It's actually been gaining us life on the turns we want it to be gaining life, not early, but rather than late when it gets that 4th counter put onto it. And then for our kind of panic button, which is a necessary evil, again in the format is Extinction Event, the super good versus Rogue, super good versus Gruul, and whatnot. Last but not least, we are going to run Elspeth's Son's Nemesis. We want something that can gain life as well as a residual threat. Elspeth does both of those. So that is basically where we're at with this particular deck. There are a few cards that didn't end up making the cut. Like I said, the Timurit, both the Timurit cards, I thought about putting in here because they can both gain life. It would take 2 activation and 4 cards in the graveyard for Timurit to work. It would take Timurit Calls the Dead. We're not going to be able to get the zombies we want. At that point, we probably do need to run the mill zombie. And it is going to get 3 cards off the top of our library that may or may not be the ghouls that we want them to be. What this deck definitely is in desperate need of is some sort of card that discards. If we could get like a card that is a discard draw, typically that's something now that's been going into red, but historically speaking, there have been a lot of cards in black. Like what would be super good would be a discard a card, pitch a card to have an opponent discard a card. That could be something that could go in here, or pitch a card to draw 2 cards. I mean, that's basically what Throw Possibility does, but hopefully in the future there might be some sort of card that does work with it. Another card I thought about running with the Silver Ghoul is like any sort of sacrifice a creature based. There used to be one that was printed in Ixalan that might have a cool synergy, which is you sacrifice a creature, gain life equal to its power, and draw that many cards. That could be something that could be a future addition if you do go into Historic or whatnot. So land-based, we're just going to run Castle Lochtwains. We are gaining life, so anything to draw us back up. 2 Temple of Silence. I found that like having too many tap lands was bad for this deck. We're just going to be running 22, so we're a little bit low because we're curving out at 4. This deck does want a lot of lands, though. Fabled Passage is just strictly better in that point, and same with the Bright Climb Pathway. But what I found was if you run too many Temple of Silences, the Castle Lochtwains are going to come into play tapped, and that's not where you want to be. So we're messing around with the list, too, of the mana base, and that's something that could be changed in the future. For our sideboard, we're going to run 3 Duresses. This could be Agonizing Remorse. I prefer Duress at the moment. I'm not quite sure which one is the better card to run. Duress is really in here for Ugin decks. That is where you, at 1 mana, you want to rip it out early. I might bring it in versus Rogues, depending on what flavor of Rogues they are. But Duress is definitely an option for the sideboard. Necromentia, I don't know if we want to go a 2-3 split this way, but Necromentia is another card that's super, super good in this format, ripping out Ugins, ripping out Cruel Ultimatums. I just have a 2 of in the sideboard. It might need to go up to a 3 of and then go down. In fact, I might just play around with that right now, and we'll go a 2-3 split at the moment. I think 2 Duress is pretty good. Elspeth Nightmare is super good versus Rogues. It's not that great versus the rest of the meta. It's decent versus Gruul. It's not good at all versus the ramp decks. It's also not very good versus Yorion decks. So Elspeth's Nightmare is in the sideboard for that reason. And then we're running a Veto Thorn of the Duskrose. It was in my main. It was a cute card. I wanted to make it work. However, really, you can just throw it in with the Helo's Intervention for a big play. And it's not a card that I think is deserving. It's cute. It's in the sideboard. Another Shatter is another panic button. Basically going to bring it in versus Gruul decks or other big creature-based decks. And then Rankle. I'm not sure if Rankle is deserving, wants to be in the main. This could actually go up as high as a 4 of if it could be the key card for making this deck work. We'll have to toy around with numbers, but right now I've got it in the sideboard as it's going to come into play versus decks where I think that pitching is going to be a much more reasonable. So like Rogues, I don't think you want Rankle versus Rogues, and I don't think you want it versus Gruul. So for that reason, I think the number 1 and number 2 deck, you want to throw it in the sideboard for decks that it's going to be more versatile against. So especially like the Yorion decks where we want to pitch worthless cards like Extinction Events to the graveyard, to the bin, that's where Rankle comes into play. So other cards that did not make the cut, a lot of the life gain cards that I think that is just not where you want to be, like the Speaker of Heavens. Speaker of Heavens, I think, is a card that you want to utilize in Clerics because it's got the Cleric synergy. There's a lot of life gain Cleric synergy at the moment. However, getting up to that 7 life above is a lot harder than you actually think because you're going to be taking a lot of damage versus Rogues and Gruul early, and it's not going to really do much. It's just removal fodder, and it doesn't stick around to actually get the ability. You'd want some more synergy to use the Speaker. Helad, same thing. Helad's kind of weird by giving lifelink to a creature. It could work with like the Silver Smoke Ghouls. I think that you would take the Black Lens Paragons out at that point. possibly make zombies a bigger thing to gain that life you need it to, but it's definitely not where you want to be. The Archon of Sun's great, same thing. It does have that three life link. However, it's not, if these made Pegasus is not Griffins, you can make that argument. But since they are Griffins, not Pegasus, I think Archons does not have enough synergy in this deck. A few other cards like Mangara seem pretty interesting with a life link. If it would have been a 3/4 life link, maybe you could have made that argument. But I decided not to include it. The Baneslayer Angel and the other Angel, the Double Strike Angel, decided not to put in the deck. Baneslayer is just in a weird position. Turn 5, you want to be... It doesn't, like, beat the Great Henge, and it doesn't beat Embercleave. It makes it be too much defensive at that point. So Baneslayer is just in a very awkward position in Standard. Some of these powerhouses in Standards of yesteryears are just awful right now, and I think Baneslayer is included in that list. We'll take a look at the other Angel in a second here. Wasn't a lot of other cards from Black that I think are going to be able to be utilized in here. I did think about running like Nighthawk Scavenger, but it's kind of awkward. You can get up to a 3 pretty easily, but again, not where you really wanted to be. We already talked about like Veto. Veto is a very awkward card as it doesn't really do much. It's more of a win more card than it is just a card you want to be relying on as your win condition. The Indulgent Patrician, same thing. It does have that trigger off of 3, but it's just strictly worse in my opinion than Veto is, as it doesn't trigger the 3 itself. You'd have to get some counters on it maybe. That's where Helad would come in if you're going to go a Helad route there. Same thing with Lurrus, just not enough advantage with Lurrus. Yeah, really not any advantage with Lurrus. You'd have to definitely switch up your deck. And it's the other rider, the black one, the black-green one was interesting because you could actually bring it back as another residual threat. But I think the Ghoul is definitely the right route to go. Unfortunately, Kunaros is a non-bow because we do have cards that want to be entering from graveyards. So for that reason, I don't think that it's worthwhile throwing in the list. Let's look at the two-strike, the double strike Angel was another card that I thought about running. The Angel Vitality, I thought too, but this is another awkward card. It'd make all those 2 gain life spells actually worthwhile to run. However, it's just removal fodder in this format. There's no way a 3-drop at 2/2 is going to be playable in this day and age with Bone Crusher Giants. So the other one that was interesting was the Angel of Destiny. Angel of Destiny getting above 15 life, doable in this deck, especially with the Helad's Intervention. But it's actually has a pretty decent body on it with being a 4/6. Combat damage 2 is where you want it to be. I mean, the double strike, you got to think this is a 4/6, so it's going to trigger most of it. All of your creatures gain basically lifelink when they deal combat damage to a player. So it's interesting with Griffins. Probably not where you want to be though. And that's basically the cards we have for life gain. Other cards that could definitely go in this deck are any of your typical removal-based spells and control-based spells. Elspeth Conqueror's Death seems reasonable to put in the deck. At that point, though, it's like, do you want to be going into blue-white for the Dream Trawler and maybe a few other cards? Absorb doesn't exist right now. Absorb would be fun with the Ari. There are a lot of cards that just rotated. I think would be pretty neat for really pairing with this. However, that's what I got going on this one. Does super good versus Rogues unless Rogues has like a really busted draw. Does tend to struggle, like I said, versus Gruul because like cards like the Great Henge put it over the top. Embercleave makes it very weird. We do have a lot of removal though in this deck, so it should have a reasonable matchup. You're not like getting crushed by Gruul. It's pretty reasonable. And it should have game versus the other control-based decks. Probably not going to win versus Ugin. Base decks were too slow. So that's just the deck that we have to kind of seed. So looking for Ghouls and Rogues and see if they can get enough. If the Gruul matchups or the Rogue matchups offset the Gruul matchups, so as far as win percentage is concerned, this could definitely be a viable deck. Alrighty, let's get to the games. I only have time for a few. I actually did record an entire series before recording this, but there were so many interruptions. A guy made me run through timeouts and stuff, and I think that would have been miserable to make everyone watch that. So we're going to go ahead and play the Historic Ranked, and we'll get a couple games here. Hopefully we can see a Gruul matchup and a Rogue matchup and call it good. All right, we're going against For the Win. Hopefully that will not be the scenario, and we will be the winning deck. We'll go ahead and play first here, and reasonable. We're going to go Fabled Passage and Amaze. Charming Prince is actually pretty reasonable, too, for the Scry. So go ahead and just go get a, looks like a Plains is the correct one to get. And maybe you could make the justification for getting a swamp. That way if we draw a castle, it can come into play untapped. Duress is fine. I don't care about Duress. It can take a Maze Mind Tome. That's fine. And we've... the scenario actually ends up happening. Womp womp. At this point, double is double where we want to be. Because Castle Lochtwain, yeah, I'm going to go double. And I think Maze Mind is the way to go. And we got this one out here. And that's going to allow us to... Duress is kind of a weird... That's kind of a weird card to be playing. Definitely don't want the silver right now. We have our swamp. Perfect. Now we're in the kind of the driver's seat here. I think I'm just going to draw a card with the tome rather than play a Charming Prince. Yeah, Charming Prince is quite awkward at the moment. So let's start drawing cards off the tome. So not a clue what we're going against. It looks like some sort of control-based deck. They can go ahead and take my Elspeth. Yep, thought that was coming. And then we'll draw a card at the end of the turn. This could be an Ugin deck for sure. So draw that card. And a Heartless Act is not where we want to be. Another Charming Prince. I'm actually just going to draw a card right now. We want to start grabbing some. And why don't I use both my white sources? That's what it usually does. We'll Castle Lochtwain and end the turn here. Can't activate their Crawling Barrens. That's fine. Another Crawling Barrens. And we'll go to our turn. And this time we'll make sure that we can get what we need. I think this is probably like a Shark Typhoon deck, I would say. Fortunately, I think we need to start running out Charming Princes. Opponent can start putting some counters on the Crawling Barrens. If they want to actually counter this, it's fine. I mean, it's card for card at that point. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so the Ghouls should do very well in this matchup. Again, I think this is going to be a Shark Typhoon deck. Unfortunately, we're not hitting lands. So maybe that Charming Prince did need to happen. And this is where I think the Crawling Barrens are going to start getting activated. That's Heartless Act's really bad versus the Barrens. Unfortunately, we cannot draw lands to save our lives here. We'll get in with the Ghoul. It happens. And at this point... Charming Prince, just a scry. It's a terrible feeling, but I need to hit these lands to get the rest of our mana on board. And unfortunately, we're just kind of matched up weird versus this with a lot of removal and nothing to remove. I'm pretty sure we're going to get blown out by a Shark Typhoon, so we'll scry 2. Actually, you know what? We'll gain 3 life. Because it's going to come back. And that was draw us a card rather than scrying. And unfortunately, we can't hit a land here either. So we got our grip of cards, but nothing to do with it. And I'm assuming like Crawling Barrens is going to get another counter. I doubt they'll cycle a Shark Typhoon. I think it'd be a pretty bad. All right, that's actually better. I prefer that play than even putting a counter on the Shark Typhoon. And Brazen Bar is going to bounce it. I mean, that's fine. It's fine. We'll discard it. Because we have Charming Prince for days. 3 cards left in my opponent's deck. Very weird play that my opponent's just going to allow me to have a free card. As I think we're going to match up pretty decent. Cling to Dust is nice too. So this is our opportunity to go the Griffin Ari here. And then gain some life off the Charming Prince. Which brings back the Ghoul. And again, we have a grip of cards. This Crawling Barrens is going to be a problem, though, because of the Heartless Act not being able... It's one of the cards that it does not. Yeah, we knew that was coming, and I know I don't have any chance versus Shark Typhoon, so it is what it is. We do get in for some decent damage. And we saw the same plays before. I definitely do want to go that route. So we'll go ahead and attack in. And we'll go another Ari here. And then another Charming Prince to gain 3 life. Which gives us 2/2/2s. Shark Typhoon is interesting. It's going to give a lot of blockers. Thing is, they're already heavy on needing the mana. Extinction Event on... So they're going to name Evens. Which, okay, they get their... Yeah, they get their... Yick. I need cards really bad here. Or lands. So I have a Charming Prince I can kill. So I'm gonna draw a card off this stupid... Maybe this isn't what I want to be doing it on my turn. My opponent's pretty low on mana to begin with. Oh yeah, and I want a land drop, so that's correct. So we're just gonna Cling to Dust. And we'll hit our own Charming Prince that's in the graveyard. And if our opponent wants to counter it, they counter it. They do not. So this gets back our Ghoul, as well as gives us 2 Griffins. Opponent's kind of getting low on cards. They are just going to cast the Brazen Borrower. Now I have to decide if it's worthwhile just to kill it. Or do I just go for a Black Lace Paragon at the end of turn and then kill it on my opponent's turn? I think it's worthwhile just to... Yeah, we'll kill it. Also gives us another target for Cling to Dust. So we do have lethal. We're like showing lethal, but 3 cards in our opponent's hand with Shark Typhoon. Maze Mind Tome gets a blocker, but tap the one with... Wow, okay, my opponent's going to go this route. Because we have double removal in our hand. Let's see what we end up getting here. So, yeah, I'm going to tap out here. We're going to do 3 here, just in case they kill this the Ghoul. We get everything back. So the Erebos Invention on 3 allows us to have more flexibility. They have a counterspell, they have a counterspell. And that allows us then to attack in. And I'm sure there's going to be a removal spell. Eliminate. Okay. So we need to hold up. So we can Heartless Act. Before blockers. And that's going to put my opponent in a pretty precarious situation. Down to 2, and we get 2 Griffins. So, has 1 draw with the Maze Mind Tome. That was the worst draw for a land. So, Maze Mind Tome gets a card. The best case scenario for my opponent would be another Brazen Borrower. We do have Elspeth that can come back. Ooh, a Shark Typhoon for a Shark Typhoon. That was the worst, yeah. Opponent probably, yeah, I guess that's that. So, Helo's Intervention, I think, is fine here. Elspeth Nightmare is terrible, right? So, Necromancy is good, too, because that's all we need to name. So, maybe we'll just go, we'll do Duress Necromancy rather than, and Helo's Intervention can take care of it. I think this is actually a decent game for Rankle. Extinction Events can come out, of course. They're pretty terrible. I don't think we need Elspeth. Elspeth's good versus control. Murderous Rider. Murderous Rider is actually super good. Heartless Act isn't. So we're going to take out Heartless Act. Heartless Act takes care of like Brazen Borrower, but it's very weak versus their land, whereas the Murderous Rider takes care of the land. And Erebus Invention, this is one where it can take care of like Brazen Borrower. I think I'm going to cut 2 of them because I think it's the weakest card left in our deck. We have all the rest of them have game versus our opponent. So actually performed pretty well. We got stuck on that 4 lands forever. And I possibly need to go back up to 23 or 24 lands. I'm being very greedy just so I can, showcase more cards. I'm very guilty of that as a deck builder, being like, I can't cut anything, I'll just cut a land. And this deck probably wants 23, 24, 25, somewhere in that little spread, because it is a very mana-intensive deck, especially when it gets to where you're sacrificing your ghouls. Man, there are probably some pretty sweet combos with that ghoul going back in Historic. Is there just an activated ability, or a triggered ability when you sacrifice a creature with a creature with power 3 or greater dies, gain 3 life, something like that? I wonder if there's something that ends up doing that, and then you can get a ton of value. So we're back to the 2-lander arena, because that's what arena does. It gives you 2 landers every game. We'll keep the 7. Dress is kind of weird here, but you keep maze mines. All right, we'll maze mine for a maze mine. I don't think there's Mail Out of Scry right now. Why not? Oh, why are you doing this to me? I want it, but I need lands. I'm throwing it to the bottom because lands are bust. And then we're actually going to hold control and try to scry away a land. Ah, okay, we got a land anyway. But I didn't want that. We'd prefer a black source. We have literally all our planes. We have a few more planes left. Opponent gets to draw a card off their scry. We get to draw a card too, though. I need to Necromentia and get that Shark Typhoon. Okay, that's going to come into play tap, which is fine. I think we'd rather just draw another card. I think my opponent's going to draw a card as well. Which I don't know if that's going to work out for them if they're running a lot of control. They might have to discard a card here. Nope, they're still okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ashiok. Okay, so Ashiok's going to be super good versus us. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to beat it.
Welcome to my domain.
We need a Murderous Rider, but we also need a black source. There's the other black source with the Fabled Passage. And we have all the Revitalizes. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, I think. While my opponent's tapped out, we are Shark Typhooning. Might still die to... So Brazen, Agonizing, Blood Chief, Brazen, Library. Oh, they only have 2 Shark Typhoons. They cut it for Sneak. It's literally their best card. So Ashiok is the other card we need to worry about. I feel really good versus this matchup. There are very few win cons. Now I'm looking at it. And we hit a land drop. Do I just go another Maze Mine while I can? I think so. Yeah, Ashiok's just gonna wreck me. Unfortunately. That Ashiok. So I'm gonna mill 2 cards. Or exile 2. Oh, got my Murderous Rider. I took out all of my removal. So, like, a Griffin would be good here. But Brazen Borrowers take care of those. There's a Negate. Agonizing Remorse. I'm sure my opponent's going to Agonize Remorse, which is fine. I don't care about... they're going to take Elspeth. So I need a black source early to rip out that Ashiok. I got the negate up too. Yeah, Ashiok's got me. I don't think I'm coming back from this. So the Ghoul gives me a blocker. It'll get Brazen Borrowed, right? I think this is the play because we just get rid of a negate. He's just going to cast the negate. No, I don't know. Yeah, just cast the negate so I can't see the hand. Yeah, that's fine. And then, you know what? I think I still want to draw a card. I think that's the bigger payoff to try to hit that land. Another Necromentia. We'll draw another card. And we did hit a land. So this one we'll be able to put the Paragon, Black Land. My opponent, I don't want my opponent out of that. We'll put it at the bottom. I really don't think there's a way I can beat Ashiok. Like, the best case scenario is my opponent just kills Ashiok here. And then, like, ooh, I want that Elspeth. But most likely, opponent just pluses Ashiok. Yeah, there's so few win cons. So Necromentia in the future, if I can get out, we'll name Ashiok, and then we have the Healer's Intervention that can take care of the... And maybe Revitalizes need to come out? Another Maze Mine Tome. Another 2/2. Rankle. Rankle just gets... Rankle gets get Brazen Borrowers out of the way here. Is that the only way I can come back from this? Oh, my opponents can actually draw a card. So possibly getting more zombies. Unfortunately, we don't have like an extinction event to get us out of here. Oh, really gonna try for the zombies. Yeah, I guess you'd want them in your hand if that's the case. There's another Ashiok too. And none in their library? How come it didn't allow me to... Alright. Was there only two? Did it not show me? I'm not sure why it did that. We need to gain some life here. Or get that Ghoul out. But, wait, no, because then Ashiok can actually get the Ghoul. That's fine. You can cling the dust, the Ghoul. So see if my opponent wants to go Ashiok now for -3. That's fine. Yep, clean. It's 3 life, though not a card back, so it did its job. What would my opponent actually get with the negative? Yeah, just decides to go.
The shadows awaken.
I'm gonna scry. Alright, what is it? I actually kind of want a land. A land still allows me to chain off cards, but we'll put it to bottom. A Ghoul, another Ghoul. Dies. Yeah, I don't see myself coming out of this. We really, really needed to find... Let's go ahead and draw a card. And there's Murderous Rider. Murderous Rider I die to, though. Rankle doesn't work. Double Revitalize doesn't work. We needed to find those silver smoke ghouls in. Puts us at 13 now. I'm just going to the second game. We're too far behind. There's no way I'm catching up. Especially the Extinction Event. Possibly Extinction Event's not terrible in here. Because I can use it to get rid of those tokens. But I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about it. Veto's kind of interesting too. It's just better than Erebos Intervention. I think it is. And then just having like a one of Extinction Event. Also, Nightmare can actually take care of those tokens. But I'm just going to keep it as is. So I think the play here, we want to keep a Griffin. If we can get a Griffin hand early, that can give us the aggression we need, and then Ashieks aren't as big of a threat. And we did, but we have to mulligan, unfortunately. And this I am going to keep with the Duress, and I actually think Charming Prince is the weak card here. Because I want to keep the lands. Let's first turn Duress. Hopefully rip out an Ashiok. Our opponent did the same thing. Kept a high land. What a weird hand to keep for my opponent, I guess. I don't know. But we'll go with... Oh, true. See, Veto, every time you put just a 1-of in your deck, Arena draws it. So we'll cling to dust. Get rid of the Duress. Draws a card for more information. That's going to actually be pretty good. Because we can rip out... We'll rip out Ashiok, actually. And see if there's a negate. Heh. That's the card to draw, huh? We, unfortunately, are drawing every card in the world. Veto can be sort of a threat, but I think we're pretty much dead. My opponent kept in removal, which is very awkward. Oh, not Elspeth's Nightmare. That's actually to rip out stuff. So... let's revitalize first. Unfortunately, my opponent gets... hell... this actually gives my opponents more options. Nope, gets an Extinction Event with Elspeth's Nightmare. And then it gets rid of my Cling to Dust, too. Also, Nightmare's a weird card to bring in. Worked versus the Veto. But kept a clutch full of lands, and it's working out for my opponent. Meanwhile, we are drawing every card we do not want to draw. I can Cling to Dust, get another card. Probably the right play, rather than keep a Charming Prince here. And we can just exile Duress. Maybe the Ghoul was the right play just to put it out. I wanted to get some sort of value out of it, drawing a card there, but possibly just the Castle Lock Twin could have done the exact same thing, and that wasn't the right play. All right, we'll put the Ghoul out, and now we are getting flooded. It's working. Charming Prince is working here. Just gonna go with the Barons, huh? I wonder if my opponent's gonna Brazen Borrower on. No, at least we can block. Pass the blockers. Block here. Block. Sack. Draw a card. Maybe we can get out of this way? I mean, the good news is we have a lot of lands to work with. Agonizing Remorse hits a Charming Prince. Oh, no, decides to hit the Ghoul. Okay, so we're unfortunately hitting lands. This can scry us. Rankle's actually pretty decent. Heal's Intervention sucks. Rankle can work. And we can actually Charming Prince again. If we go draw a card right now, I can just Charming Prince and scry again right where we have it up. Necromancy's bad at this point. These are all bad. Opponent keeping activating Crawling Barrens is probably the play they're going to keep going until I'm out of cards. So I really need to find another renewable resource here. Didn't find the Griffins at all. So the Crawling Barrens is going to get in here. Murder Strider is going to be perfect. So we're going to go Rankle. No, I'm just going to keep it up with the Murderous Rider. So I'm dead to like a negate. See if it happens. Most likely it's going to get negated. And that's why I should have kept the Charming Prince up. Yep. Found another Rankle. Go down to a 3. Revitalize is fine. We'll have our opponent discard a card. Each player discards a card. We'll get rid of a Rankle. Not a Cling to Dust. Ah, it's the worst card possible. I think we might as well just cast Revitalize right now. Maybe I should have done that first. Yeah, because then Fatal Passage could have been discarded rather than Rankle. So my opponent just beats me if they have Extinction Event does it. Yep, that will do it. So kind of, I guess you win if you keep a clutch of 6 and a duress in your hand. Oh, that mulligan hurt. We needed to get a 2/2, the 2/2 Drake out quick, and it just didn't happen. Just didn't happen. Found that the run of Charming Princes, none of just one of the Ghouls was all. Cards just doesn't want, our deck just does not want to draw the right cards for the deck. The entire focus of the deck, with 8 of them. Deck, let's draw them. And I think that would have been able to work out a lot better. To that clutch, too, of drawing the Elspeth Nightmare, which out of like 99 times that's going to be the worst. It actually doesn't even kill my Ghoul. I guess it does X on my graveyard and rip something out, though, so it's probably not a bad addition to throw in. Duress a duress. Alrighty, so we are back to mulliganing. Unfortunately, we have to keep this. And we don't want a Ghoul in hand. So, you know what? Actually, I think Extinction Event is the weak card. What if actually putting Necromantia in that last matchup was the right play or not? We have Heartless Act against, what is our opponent doing? A Thief's Guild Enforcer. Let's just go ahead and Heartless Act it. So we were going against the bigger rogues, not the Lurus rogues. So the Brazen Borrower version. Hey! Our deck finally comes through with us. And puts the... So blue into play tap. So we're going to be able to get it back at 3-1 with the Revitalize. Hopefully we can hit a land off the top here. Like a Temple would be the better one. Revitalize. Hopefully we can find us a land. I'll take it. And we'll go get another black source. And there we have it. Thank you for milling us. And milling us an Elspeth now. So another Thief's Guild Enforcer. Fabled Pass is going to be another tap land. I think we play defense. No, we'll still go on the offense with the Ghouls. We can just hard cast this other Ghoul. And, or we could go Blacklands Parrot. Nope, it's just going to hard cast this guy. That way, if they decide to destroy it, we have multiple ways to make it happen. The best case scenario is we draw a land next turn. And then we have... yeah, ways to get it back. Okay. I think I'm just going to attack him with both. Interesting block. It's very easy for me to get this back. And I think I'm going to wait on my opponent's turn. Yeah, we'll wait on our opponent's turn for stuff. Into the Story. Ugh, such a broken card. It is the end of turn, though, so I can't do anything. And we need to stop right here. We'll Revitalize. See if it gets countered. If it gets countered, it gets countered. I think it's worthwhile to try to get additional cards out of this. Oh, it happens. What am I putting it past the turn? With this stop. Why did that not work, though? Oh, beginning of your end step. Derp-a-derp. I should learn to read cards. So Blacklands Paragon actually does not work in this deck. We'll end up cutting that. As we'll go Temple here. That'll give us another play the following turn. And that one's fine. Beginning of your turn. So we need to gain life on our own turn. I think I will just keep up the Murderous Rider. I have a feeling there's something coming down here. Yeah, we'll end up even killing that. We have Elspeth next turn. Gotta assume my opponent's got a clutch of removal, though. Erebos' Intervention. That card gets a lot worse, too. Yeah, the Blacklands Paragon gets cut. We're gonna go Elspeth.
My shadow.
We'll gain ourselves some 5 life.
I miss your guidance, Ajani.
And the Ghoul comes out. A Trickster. Trickster doesn't have... oh, as a tome it can get. It has to decide if it wants to go towards Elspeth or me with the Trickster. Okay, that's fine. That's absolutely okay. We have double blockers now with the Ghouls.
No.
Another Extinction Event. If I keep back everything, we have a lot of removal. But the longer this game goes on, I think the worse off we are. So there's this the Soaring Thought Thief. Which, do I want to go for a thief here? Now we can do it on my opponent's turn. So, we can go ahead and just draw a card here. Go Black Lance Paragon, which we will be cutting. Heck, it's down to the lock. That's fine. Took care of the Trickster. And we have Elspeth again. See if this one gets drowned. It does not. And we get to gain some 5 life. So Elspeth's actually working pretty good. The issue, so Blacklace gives us some more room for cards. Can you go at Elspeth, huh? Doesn't quite kill Elspeth. There's Into the Story number 2. And the opponent doesn't have a lot of lands to work with here. Of course, what we're going to do is give these 2 suckers +2/+1.
Believe in yourself as
Tack in. Round in the lock has to be used for this. We'll draw a card. Goes down to 9. And I think we just Elspeth again. I think that's the right play. And gain 5 life all over again.
the time to fight is now.
Here they come, the Ghouls. And there is the concession. Opponent had a kind of a weird, couldn't find anything with all those Into the Stories. So this is where Elspeth Nightmare is very, very good. Rankle's terrible, Veto's terrible, Hero's Intervention, Shout of the Sky. The cards that I don't think work as well in this particular match are going to be the Maze Mind Tomes. They are just awkward with the scrying not giving you value because of getting milled. Shadow of the Sky also needs to come in here. They're not really, I don't know if they're running anything to take care of, or to reanimate from their graveyard. They probably are. They probably run the land. So Shadow of the Sky isn't the greatest with that aspect in mind. Black Lance Paragons are actually bad. It's just not where we want to be. So does Rankle actually, is just a 1 of Rankle actually useful? Yeah, we'll go with 1 of Rankle. Or Duress. I think Duress is fine in this matchup. Grabbing the Into the Stories, so we can just take like something like a... I want everything else. What is the weak link for this deck, for this particular matchup? Probably the Shatter, to be honest. So I don't know. Maybe Elspeth, another Elspeth in the main would be good. It's really only good versus this match. Well, maybe 2 of is the right play. I always thought Doom Foretold's interesting in this one too. I'm going to keep this just because the Elspeth's Nightmare is so strong. Wants to give us some swamps. Hopefully it gives us a plains here. It's actually a good draw because if my opponent flashes in. Yep, perfect. Get rid of the Thief-Skilled Enforcer, and hopefully it mills some ghouls. It does not, and it gets an Ari. Man, this card just doesn't want to show you its potential. Fortunately, they flash everything in here. At least we get a duress, though. Grabbing into the story. Might just drown the lock. It's fine, too. Oh, double into the story. Yikes. I mean, the argument could have been made for the Seagate Restoration, but yeah. No counterspell, so we'll be able to take care of the Thief-Skilled Enforcer. It's going to come into play untapped, tapped. What in the world does my opponent have that last card in hand? I don't... Instant speed. If I get up to 7 or more cards, they can cast it, but that's fine. We do run it out. So that's why they untapped. That was the entire... Are you kidding me? That was the last card in hand, was a didn't say please. And it doesn't even mill. Where are the ghouls? We're going to mill the entire deck. So opponent gets to have 2 Thief Guilds and 2 Enter the Story. The two most broken cards. And we don't even get a swamp or a plains in our first. I hate that card. Into the Story. Possibly should have waited. Possibly should have waited. Didn't say please coming though. And this is so dumb. Can't get a plains, huh? In the first 19? Or a Fabled Passage? Or a Temple? Or a Bright Cleave? Whatever. We have to get a plains here. There we go. Do I run it out, though, is the... I think I'm going to allow my opponent to do something in the Heartless Act. Good night. Well, okay, we took care of it. So, we're in decent shape here. Decent shape. Now that we have the... Gotta go for it. Womp womp. Still want to hit land drops. So I'm going to do it right now. Perfect. But even like a flashing Brazen Borrower is just so lethal here. My opponent's been drawing like... yeah, really drawn on fire. Do we have anything that my opponent can actually even get? Yeah, Murderous Rider. I'm not even sure Erebos' intervention does much here. That's a weird card for my opponent. So they need one more Drown Lock. They burned 2 of them. Yeah. Never mind. They can go Gadwick to fill back up. So it's Griffin, Ari, and... Yep, that works. So we get the Ari here. This one does hit. And this allows us to... We still have any ghouls in the graveyard. Nope, we do not. So we can do this for 4. Or we can actually do it for 5. Ooh, play around a Jawaris. No, we can only do it for 4 anyway. So that does get a Revitalize out of the way, unfortunately. Sure. The third into the story, of course. Card needs banned ASAP. A Ruin Crab, which Ruin Crab just like helps me at this point. Kind of a weird card to be running in this version. This doesn't matter, we do not find what we need. My graveyard will become exiled, which is not pertinent. So we can Fabled Passage here. Now the lands are coming in. Charming Prince. We're going to gain 3 life. I probably should have drawn a card first. Yeah, that was stupid of me. Soaring Thought Thief. Do I need to cast it, actually? I think I do. And gain 3 life, unfortunately. Oh, I should have exiled. I should have exiled the Charming Prince. That would have been better than it would have came back into play. We would have had 2 blockers. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Pretty bad on my part. Finally, we find a silver smote, but I think it's too late. Heartless Act, sure. And I think I do need to block. That's not what we want to see. Definitely not what we want to see. Okie dokie. Lands, where are you? Why are you in the very bottom of the deck? So, I think Shatter. Shatter's pretty good. Nah, we'll just keep it as is. Didn't find a Cling either. No Cling to the Dust being milled. The skeletons were definitely too late. There we go. This is a reasonable hand. Start off with the Lochtwain as it comes into play tapped. Unfortunately, to get another Ari, though. It does not want to be in the opening hand. It absolutely does not want to come in the opening hand. I don't know what to do with it. We'll just go ahead and kill the crab. And then hopefully my opponent plays another crab, then we can Elspeth Nightmare it. Oh, beautiful. Hey, there you go. Now I've got an option. Cling to Dust. Okay, that's fine. Just kills one of them. I'll accept. And then I think this is the better time. Just Elspeth Nightmare right now. Take care of a Ruin Crab. Let's call it good. Then it can take care of an Into the Story. And then makes so the Cling to Dust doesn't work. Yeah, this is perfect. Fortunately, we draw a Ghoul. Don't even need to get rid of an Into the Story. Do we, like, Seagate's a land. Drown the Lock is just a counter spell, though. Yep, it's a drown. Yeah, we just revitalize here. Fortunately, we do not draw a land, so that annoying Soaring Thief is going to come out, but at least we get a 3-1 back. Can you go with the Heartless Act, huh? So Heartless Act and then Cling to Dust. Interesting play. because I get to exile whatever my opponent decides to do, and they lose 3 life to do it. Oh, they misplayed. Yep, that is a misplay there. Because there goes the graveyard. Black. I'm gonna let my opponent flash in the... No, at this point I think it's just a ghoul. So the Soaring Thought Thief comes into play. The only problem is if this last card in hand is going to be a... I mean, the way my opponent's been drawing, you got to think the last card in hand is going to be... Alright, sure. Heartless Act. But now they wouldn't have done that with a ninjutsu here. Charming Prince and Duress. Alright, let's go get another black source. We did want to see that. And I'm just going to do it for 4. There's a negate, there's a negate. Nope. We get back both of them. So, opponent is top decking at this point. Into the story draws. Alright, they scoop it up. So, their Rabbit versus Rogues does very well against versus Rogues. I'm happy with how that performed. Definitely didn't read my cards, though. I was just thinking at the beginning of any end step that it comes back. So, we need to find cards that gain life on our turn rather than our opponent's turn. And so, let's go ahead and think of what we would put... Now it's making like a lifelink for 3 actually a lot better here. Like a residual life gain. So let's go Dex. Get rid of the Paragons. Possibly just put in more removal. We have quite a bit of removal here. Revitalize, Ari, Charming Prince. Anything with scrying or discarding or drawing. Draw in black would be perfect. Kenrith seems kind of interesting because Kenrith can actually go, let's try a Kenrith. I'm going to give Kenrith a whirl. It's kind of an awkward card in this deck, but now I'm actually starting to see some huge synergies with Kenrith. So Kenrith being able to gain the 5 life is exactly what you want, and just putting a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield in your control is also pretty relevant in this even in this deck by just getting back a Charming Prince, gaining the 3 life that way. It might be too cute. It might end up being terrible. And I think that we still want more lands. I felt like we didn't have. So we'll grab another Plains in and that will keep our land count up. I don't think we'd want any of... Ooh, I wonder if a cycling land would work. A Triome here. Would be another tap land, but we can cycle it. Nah, I mean, I think I'm just going to go with maybe another Temple of Silence. Just to make sure we have those. The proper balance. But I think it's definitely a fun deck. Definitely has a little more tweaking to do. Sideboard. I still think Veto is just a win more card. Again, I don't know if Rankle. Maybe Kenrith goes in the sideboard and Rankle goes in the. No, I think Kenrith's fine in the main. And yeah, that's that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm looking forward to comments in the comments section below. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.